Welcome back. You're watching the Power Breakfast show. So is there a deal or there is no deal when it comes to matters IEBC? That's a conversation we're having this morning, and in studio we're joined by Honorable Mudomi Njuki. He's a Member of Parliament, Chuka Igamba Ngombe, and of course we want you to be part and parcel of this conversation. So 22422 is SMS line, or you can get us on Twitter. The hashtag is Power Breakfast. For now, I hand you over to Mr. John. Mr. John?
Thank you, Kurigo. Welcome, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you.
I must declare my interest that this Member of Parliament is my Member of Parliament when it comes to rural areas, although I don't vote there. We end up attempting to look for a court Member of Parliament who would take part in this discussion up to very late last night. We couldn't. But anyway, we'll go on with our discussion because this is a very crucial matter for this country. Because if there's no deal, then you have a problem on Monday, as the coordinators are saying. Now, Mheshimiwa, you are yesterday we met the president as Jubilee politicians in at the State House. Who is fooling who? What is happening?
Well, Mr. Njao, I must first of all appreciate the fact that something is happening, in that we do not have a stalemate as it were before, when the court had the reason not to go on the streets. Now there's something rolling, there's something happening. And to your question on who is fooling who, it depends on the perception of what is the outcome of the negotiations, or what people perceive to be the proposed outcomes of the negotiations. Because the demands that have been there initially did not come from the Jubilee coalition. Demands came from the court coalition, that they wanted to have a round-table negotiation. And of course, there was an attempt previously to say what actually transpired between the meeting between Raila Odinga, Batangula, the president and the deputy president, which of course were denied by the president, that there was no agreement reached on the committee that was supposed to be formed. But later, out of consultation with the members of the private sector alliance by the president, there was also a visit by the members of the diplomatic society, and then we had members of the Rangers community. Of course, the mandate of the president is that he has a responsibility for the whole country. It's not about a coalition. This is the president of the whole country. And because in the interest of peace, he wants this whole issue to be settled down, he did agree that he can pick a committee which can only deliberate on one thing, which is contentious in this particular case, the IEBC. And yesterday we met at his house, and of course you know what transpired. The 11 member committee was agreed upon by the coalition. And what is surprising now is that while previously the CORD leadership had come up with a 5-member committee, of course, I believe in the fact that the more the merrier, the more the ideas. More people definitely has more ideas as compared to a few people, because that's diversity. He has taken another stand. It's like he is retreating because he does not seem committed to this cause as per se, and I stand to be proven wrong. Because while we are focused on resolving this issue within 30 days, all he needed to do is just pick from his, where he had come up with 5. He just needed to add another 6. Equal number to the Jubilee coalition. And then we go to the negotiations. We go to discuss. But now he has come up with other hardline stance. One, he is deviating away from what the original bone of contention was, which the IEBC, and says there are other matters, others, which now he wants a 4-member committee to constitute. And I want you to note that the announcement about the 4-member committee did not come from the presidency. It did not come from the Jubilee coalition. This one purely came from Raila. I don't know when he started talking for the Jubilee, because he named his team of the 2. And on the other side, he said Karaito and somebody else. Who is this somebody else? At what point did you announce? Because there was no other communication, further communication about another committee that was picked by the president after yesterday's meeting. So at that point you can tell who is starting fooling who without necessarily having to belabor the point. That is the position.
Doesn't it look interesting that Jubilee on the president first of all refused the deal, that they made a deal when they met just before Madaraka Day or during Madaraka time. Then he is convinced by the church, KEPSA, the private sector, and the envoys. Then he says, okay, now we can have a dialogue. Is it not odd?
It isn't. It isn't, because in the first place, if there was any deal reached, what the world would have seen is our president and the deputy president with the CORD leadership coming out of a meeting, and they would have addressed a joint press conference where they would have deliberated and said what they discussed. But that was never seen in any media, whether formal or informal. It was not there. And whatever transpired remains to be CORD's word against Jubilee's word, because what transpired in the meeting was definitely not communicated. But I believe, without having to belabor the point, the State House is a public office, and anyone can visit. When the leadership of CORD said, we want to visit you, we want to come and see you, the president agreed. They may have had a cup of tea. The CORD coalition may have teased about we would like to have this kind of thing. But if it was agreed upon, definitely it would have been discussed. Now, on the issue of looking as if you are changing your mind, I did tell you that every Kenyan at the moment would like to see a peaceful country. And you've seen what has been transpiring. The other day, the supporters of Jubilee carried a shell of a matatu that had been burnt during the demonstrations in Mathare to the doorstep of the CORD office. Of course, we had killings in Kisumu, we had property destroyed in Kisumu, that is Naivasha, and the other supermarket, the Tumaini. And of course, as a president, when you look at the trend of things and you listen to the people you lead, because diplomats are very important connections to the rest of the world in this country. Of course, we are not an isolated nation. We normally trade and we have a diplomatic relationship with the rest of the world. We want to be part and parcel of the world. The private sector allows. Those are the people who run the economy of this country. The religious community is the other arm that actually we share the responsibility of making sure that we have Kenyans who are spiritually nurtured, and of course the other things. And when they convince the president that this thing should actually be negotiated, we should be congratulating the president for actually having now colleagues he can move with. Because when they come to negotiate, they don't come to actually be able to force things down his throat. They come to show him the brighter side of the negotiation, and of course pledge their support on the stand. And there's one thing that he told them, which I would like to repeat, and you've heard about it, that he is going to agree to the negotiations on the condition that they are going to be singly or exclusively focused on the IBC and nothing else outside that. Two, it has to be anchored, or it has to follow the laid down procedures of the Constitution, which of course the best institution to do that is either the institution of Parliament, which is represented by all the parties in this country, where every Kenyan has a representative either way. And those are the two issues that he insisted, and that is what has made the CORD very jittery, because in my understanding they are looking at an opening to negotiate or bring another negotiation, which I'll actually tell you at this point what the other issue that he wants to discuss.
What are they?
You remember before we had this the promulgation of the Constitution during the Moi era, There was a famous group that was brought together, which was crafted by both the opposition and the government that time, called IPPG.
Yeah, 1997.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the kind of thing that Raila Odinga is looking for at the moment, because that has a mandate to operate outside Parliament, not be compelled to follow any standing orders or any procedural rules, so that it will give room for people who are not representative of the people in any way, elected in this particular case, to bring in their views, and of course evade the fact that CORD normally feels that everything that negotiated in and around Parliament is usually not fairly done, given the fact that they have less numbers in both national and the Senate.
Don't have a bipartisan agreement.
Yes.
There's no question of the turn of numbers.
That's absolutely what we are saying. Because one, the numbers are the same. The numbers are the same. The number of committee members they are picked and the numbers that Jubilee are picked are the same. Now, there is no involvement of the speakers in any particular case. But there has to be a guideline. There has to be something. I mean, there has to be rules that are being used. When you say we cannot use the standing orders, what exactly do you want us to use in this particular case, Mr. Mutegi?
Anyway.
And also when you say that you would like whatever is agreed upon to be rubber stamped by Parliament. In fact, that is an insult to the Kenyan people, because we are representatives of the Kenyan people. I am elected in this Parliament by the people of Chuka Mangombe. I sit there and negotiate for them what I think is the best for this country and for my people. When you tell me whatever is going to be brought by the committee, I rubber stamp, then it means that I am not representing my people. I am not even representing Kenya. And that is not democracy. That is something else.
I'll go back to the consultations.
Yes.
I feel, as a Kenyan, embarrassed that our president has to listen to diplomats. This is reminiscent of what used to happen during Moi time. You remember when we were in one party, Moi had completely refused multipartyism until donors and what they call the foreigners put pressure on him so that we changed. Do we have to listen to foreigners? I don't mind KEPSA making contribution. I don't mind the church. They are serious stakeholders. But foreigners, why do we entertain foreigners to tell us things what to do? They are not chaperones. To me, it is embarrassing. It's humiliating.
Mr. Mutegi, you know, when it comes to the goodwill of the nation and the people, anyone who has an idea that can actually be able to save our people or bring peace is absolutely welcome. If there was any indication that the foreign diplomat or the diplomats have a pressure that is geared towards their interest, that would be totally different. At the moment,
yeah, because they want a peaceful Kenya to do business with them.
Of course.
Yeah.
When peaceful Kenya is doing business with them, who is benefiting?
Can't we ourselves as Kenyans see that
Kenyans are benefiting? And this particular case, the reason why there's nothing wrong with that, and of course I have to be open. I don't expect to be bashed on this because that is the reality. We cannot say that the religious community came and that the KEPSA came and then the diplomats did not come. They came, but they did not hold a different opinion from what KEPSA and the religious community had. They had exactly the same opinion. Let's pull this thing together. Let us have a peaceful Kenya. Let us grow the economy, because what these gentlemen are asking for, if it is genuine, it is just a change of the commissioners of IEBC, not even any other structure. And by the way, let me tell you, the reason why I find this whole demand by CORD, I like avoiding talking about their leadership. Let me just say CORD, because I don't believe most of the times Raila calls the shot all the time. Sometimes he has very good ideas, because I believe him and Uhuru Kenyatta are very good friends. But when they sit again with Kalonzo Musyoka and Wetangula, he normally changes his mind on one or two things. There was a very good chance and an opportunity about 4 months ago in Parliament to bring the life of commissioners of IEBC to an end before the next elections, without any effortlessly. And that thing was bashed by CORD and especially by Raila Odinga. And I'll tell you why. There was a bill brought to Parliament, an amendment by one David Ocheng, I think you can remember, on the extension of election date from August to December. And I want you to remember that some of the commissioners at the moment is ending around October next year. So if the elections are going to be held in December, it automatically means that the commissioners that are there at the moment were not the ones who are going to conduct those elections. So it was a clear true path that this problem would have been resolved without having to go to the streets, without having to do anything else. But who frustrated that effort? During that voting, the leadership of the court in the House, led by John Mbadi himself, I wish he was here to confirm that, he lobbied the members of court to reject David Ocheng amendments vigorously. And I remember even David Ocheng told us he was summoned and he had been told to drop that amendment because their reasoning, of course, which was somehow camouflaged. The reason they gave was that we cannot give the Jubilee government an extra day in the office. Giving Uhuru Kenyatta one extra day in the office is not in our interest. But of course, behind the scenes, they did not want the issue of IEBC to be resolved because now things were going to be very smooth. One, they said that the situation that is at the moment, the law is very clear on how you can bring in more IEBC commissioners. You know, initially, the ones that were there were brought in, during the other government, and of course, the coalition government, he was there. But this time, it is once the names are proposed and brought to Parliament, it is up to Uhuru Kenyatta to actually be able to endorse them. So there will be this disadvantage in this particular case. That is why even up to now, I think they are not interested in changing those commissioners. The interest is very simple, and this will be proven wrong. I mean, right in the long term. One, they would like somehow to have an extension of the date of elections, and in the process maybe create a stalemate, because if the commissioners are not in the office or they are appointed by Uhuru Kenyatta, right now they are saying that there's a problem with these commissioners, they were involved. What if when they are elected by Jubilee and Uhuru Kenyatta, because that's what the Constitution gives, the Constitution gives the Jubilee and the presidency an advantage in an upper hand in election of those commissioners. That is the time they rejected them even more vigorously, and we'll have a stalemate. And in that time, what is likely to happen is that there will be need for negotiate and have a transitional government before the other government. And that is the opening that Raila Odinga is looking for, to have a transitional government which can last as long as even 1 year, 2 years, as we maybe solve the stalemate, and they'll definitely be in government again. Secondly, you've seen he's talking about getting 4-member committee to be able to handle the issue of the other contentious issues, to be handled apart from IEBC. It is believed, and it is true, that the other contentious issues you want to bring in, because I had guys talking about having 2 communities in leadership, that people should be barred from, there are 2 communities that should be barred from holding presidency for another 30 years. You know, those kind of crazy things. So I saw it on another TV station yesterday. When you start negotiating about communities that have not had presidency, it means you want to introduce other forms of governance, change in the Constitution that can actually give some communities automatic entry into the leadership without involving the due process of Kenyans electing their preferred leaders. And that system of introducing the Prime Minister, the issue of introducing the parliamentary system of governance is top on his priority list, because the parliamentary system of governance will give you an opportunity, if you contest in the presidential elections. If you lose, you can be nominated in parliament, or you can also be able to contest both the parliamentary and the presidency, and and be in the house. That way they'll not be in the cold. And we know those are the issues, and time will prove me right that is where they are heading.
If we remove the present commissioners, I don't know, suppose they are removed, will it be possible to appoint new ones and to conduct elections next year? There are people working that if you remove them, now as of now, then you go through the process of selecting new ones. There may be no time for them to prepare for elections.
We have a lot of time. The Constitution Article 251 is very clear on the procedures which can be used to appoint new commissioners. First and foremost, Mutegi, it may not even be removal. If today the commissioners that are there, the 9 of them, get fed up and say we cannot be seen by the country to be holding at ransom, and they resign, we will be having an office without any commissioners. And what will happen in this particular case? There are two ways. One, we will follow the procedures that are there at the moment, where the names will be brought up by the executive and brought to parliament, and the parliament will approve or disapprove, and then once they approve, the president will appoint. Or yesterday there is a bill that was brought to parliament for the first reading, the one of the Chepkonga, the one that had been crafted by the Legal Affairs and the CIOC committee, which is very clear, and actually that is what would have favored what CORD wants. But again, they are frustrating it. That bill, it looks at a scenario where the two coalitions, which is the ruling coalition and the minority. Of course, the other small parties may not, because of the numbers and what the constitution says, may not be represented, but they will be represented in parliament. That is why it has to be brought to parliament. Appoints 2 people. Those becomes 4. And then through competitive recruitment, the parliament, not parliament, but the public service commission appoint 3. Now it makes 7 of them, and you realize that if you have 2 from the coalition, the CORD coalition, 2 from Jubilee coalition, and then 3 from the public, those 7 members are the ones now who are supposed to recruit commissioners. And of course, from these 7, first and foremost, being an odd number, we can never have a stalemate. There will always be the swing vote by one of them, and that will appoint a body that is competitively recruited. It is fairly sourced and with representation, and those are the ones who appoint the commissioners, who will again then be approved by parliament and by extension by the president, and that will be the easiest way. What is the time frame? That process should not take more than 3 months. We are now 1 year, 2.5 months for elections. We have a lot of time. But are they interested? Is the CORD coalition interested in solving this stalemate? Because remember, this has been a push right from those days of Okwa Kenya, which did not work. Now they came up with the IBC, and I swear, if there is any political coalition that thrives in chaos, in having attention by the Kenyans and having fear instilled in the Kenyans, is the CORD coalition. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because why should you continue going to the streets while you still have avenues where negotiations can take place? Why is it not possible? And I remember the other day we had a very, very simple and very serious, I'm calling it simple because it was not formal, discussion in parliament by very senior members, which I don't want to name here, who said, why don't you guys give us space in this government? Give us from our coalition, give us a position in executive. Yeah, 2 or 3 ministers, and these are the place we balance this and we move on, and we leave this government. But that kind of organization cannot be said to be an indication of what is going on in their mind. It is about being excluded out of government, as it were. But the best way to be included in this government is for them to dissolve their accord and join the Jubilee.
Well,
we will accommodate them.
But we need an opposition.
Yes, opposition will come from there. The others, we have money. We have those are the minority parties.
Does the Senate have any role to play in terms of management of the Electoral Commission?
Currently?
According to the Constitution. There are some lawyers who argue that by nominating senators, we are going against the Constitution. Because the running of the Electoral Commission is not the business of the Senate. The Senate business is something to do with the counties.
First of all, I want to say that the Constitution on Article 248 talks about the independent commissions and offices. Now, it does not talk about the mandate of that particular article on Parliament on running these commissions, because that is why they're independent. However, the standing orders allows consultation across the two parliaments to be able to have a fair representation of the Kenyans, because the Kenyans who are in the counties, their interests are represented by the senators, and of course the National Assembly does the same. So it is only fair. If it is not against, and I believe it is not, I would like to see that article that is against the Constitution for the senators to be involved, because this is a committee that is supposed to have a recommendation to the National Assembly and the Senate on the way forward on this, because we want ownership. The same way we are allowing the religious body and the KEPSA to come in and be able to give their views. And eventually, we have very few bills, we have very few laws in Parliament that can actually pass without being taken to the other house for concurrence. And I find that a very good system of governance.
Right. Are you happy with the appointment of the 11 people by Jubilee?
Absolutely.
There are some people who are raising issues about the appointment of some of the members.
Don't even say some, just say Moses Kuria.
Yes.
Just say Moses Kuria. And you remember that saying of the more the merrier? The more the merrier. In this particular, it's not just the more the merrier. It is the more the diversity of the ideas and opinions. I don't know why I call it jittery about that. One, these people who have been picked in the committee are not attracting any remuneration. So that we not say that we are wasting taxpayers' money in paying them salaries. They are doing this for free. Two, on the inclusion of people like Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria is a member of Parliament who represents Gatundu South. He is qualified to represent the Jubilee because he is a negotiator. However, I know that because of the hardline stand that Kuria takes, some people think that negotiation is about submissiveness and it is about being agreeable. When CORD has people like Orengo, people like Modama, without having to name the others, what is wrong with having Moses Kuria? Who can actually...
Will that not make, if you have people who have entrenched opinions, is it not going to make the negotiations...
Who said Kuria has entrenched opinions?
Yeah.
Kuria is that seriously independent. It is a very independent mind that you can actually not be able to easily influence. And CORD actually fears him. I do not find variety when you're forming a team that you pick people who have more or less the same character. You need to have differences that actually makes this team very strong. And it is for the same reason people like Jimmy and Gwenyu were picked to actually be able to find to give that variety of people who can actually be able to be competitive as well in negotiations, which is okay.
Somebody is claiming that you are giving the people gossip. I don't know what you mean by that.
Let them say what gossip, because I am talking on a national TV station, and I said whatever I have said will be proven right. When I say the issue by code is not IBC, because it was IBC and negotiation, right now they would have been running and saying let's have that meeting by 11 members tomorrow. They would have been saying let us have this in the presence of Parliament, so that we don't have to incur any cost of taxpayers' money to hire places in hotels and those kind of places, because it is provided by the Constitution, is provided the Kenyan people, the taxpayers, that the President of Parliament have the capacity to be able to hold those kind of meetings. So let the person be specific on what the gossip is all about. I am allowed independent opinion. If I think that the court is negotiating for nusu mkate, which is actually the case, I will say it exactly as it is.
Somebody from Moloki, someone says, when it comes to negotiations, don't you think it's advisable to involve all stakeholders, including church leaders, and agree what numbers to participate? We want peace, love and unity to prevail in the country.
Absolutely. They can be taken in by taking their views. I want to remind you that the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the CIOC, was supposed to be after tabling having the bill going through the first reading. In the process, they were supposed to go and take views of the public to incorporate them. But this has been halted so that we don't have a parallel group working on this issue. One of the mandates of the group that we selected yesterday, the team of 11, when the courts select the team of 11, during those 30 days, they are not supposed to sit somewhere in a room and make decisions.
Yeah.
They are also supposed to go out and consult these various groups to be able to have their views included, so that we can make a decision that is not exclusive in this particular case. That is the rule of engagement. But at the moment, what is given by the Constitution, which you can actually be able to quote, is the members of Parliament in this case. But of course, we reach out to the others through taking the views of the public in various sectors. All of us are interested in peace.
Is there a possibility that when the 11 and 11 meet the 22 people and make recommendations, Parliament can reject?
Yeah, absolutely, it's possible. And that is why I started by telling you,
you are not rubber stamps.
We are not rubber stamps. The representatives of the people of Kenya who sit in the Senate and the National Assembly are not rubber stamps. They have an independent mind, and that is why they were elected by their people to represent them. So when it is brought, whatever they agreed, because 22 people will not be angels. Definitely they can make mistakes, or they can have ideas that can be improved. That is why I said even if it were possible for the whole of Parliament to meet, although that may be a bit more tedious, that would be the case. And that is why they are not supposed to have the express authority and the mandate to have the ideas and the accommodation for the change, which will be implemented without any question. That is why it has been brought to Parliament. And remember, even after being brought to Parliament, it will still have to go to the President for it to be implemented. That is why the President at the moment is very, very categorical and clear that this is not about him and his friend Raila Odinga sitting together and negotiating like friends what they can do with the coalition, because these are not personal properties. These are institutions that have been created by the Kenyan people, and their views have to be heard. And that is why he insists that instead of him negotiating down and negotiating with Raila Odinga, because this is not about them, it's about Kenyans, it has to go to the people's representatives, so that it does not have to be Uhuru negotiating, Uhuru making the decision as a president, and therefore being subject to vulnerability of having probably mistakes, or even having compromised some of the things that would have seen long-term solution to the problem at the moment.
Originally, CORD wanted the removal. In fact, when their first demonstration was to go and pull out the commissioners from the office and send them home. But they have now, or the dialogue was now changed from removing the commissioners to electoral reforms. What electoral reforms would Jubilee want made to the Electoral Commission? The reform themselves of the institution.
That is one of the indications that the demands by CORD are very pregnant, and they are not what we see on the face. What we see is not what we get. From the Jubilee side, we are not handling electoral reforms. We are handling the issue of the IEBC commissioners that are seen to be, probably in the eyes of some people, having problems, which has been associated with the Chicken Gate scandal, which have been associated with, according to some people, they look as if they are partisan. They talk about referee who has already taken position, which I don't understand how they have taken position, because we have held various elections since the elections of 2013 in this country, and CORD has won in some cases where they say yes, the IEBC did very well. The Jubilee lost in some cases where Duale and others said were here. There was a problem somewhere, which I understand definitely. They may not have said about it. It is the IEBC, but definitely, in the eyes of all those, even in the eyes of the public, you know, sometimes when the truth, the wrong, or rather the rumors is said so many times, or a lie is said so many times, it may look like the truth. So it's only fair, even me, I think, in my position as a member of parliament of Chuka Mangombe and member of National Assembly, it will be fair under the circumstances not to have the next elections with the current commissioners, so that these doubts cannot be there, so that when Jubilee wins, we can win fair and square, so that we can actually be able to prove that it does not matter what you change, the Kenyan people's voice will still be heard, irrespective of who is the referee. But how should they be done? Should it be violent? Should it come with deaths of people? Should it come to destruction of property? So at the moment, forget about those reforms that are supposed to bring in probably parliamentary system of governance, that are supposed to bring in the position of Prime Minister, that is supposed to bring in probably shares in the current government. Forget about all those. Why don't you focus on IEBC commissioners
and
removal?
I was not referring to commissioners themselves. I'm talking about the institution of the Electoral Commission. The fact that there was issues about the transmission of results. There were issues about the voter register. There are issues even now about the registration of people to vote. Is that going to be discussed by the committee that the president is appointing?
Who controls those issues that we discussed here?
The Electoral Commission.
The Electoral Commission, by the commissioners. So when you get new commissioners, it means we have a new broom. The new broom is supposed to sweep cleaner, and that will be the main point. They will be given the rules of engagement. This is where we are, gentlemen and ladies. The previous regime of the commissioners, this is where they goofed, and this is where you are starting. We do not want in another 1 year to be the same kind of a problem. So once you change that, then we expect things to be okay.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Njuki.
Yes, thank you.
We hope that this stalemate, this impasse is going to end, and we expect that probably on Monday there will be no demonstrations. If those ones will go to the musicians and listen to them before we go to the other issue dealing with the DJs.
Thank you, Mr. Njau.
Thank you.
That was also my position. We need a peaceful Kenya.